Okay. Shit. Yo, what is going on, Philly Sports Nation? So, welcome back to the episode 14 of the Philly Sports Talk Podcast. So today I'll have Hunter Doyle from the Philly Insider Podcast on today. So, Hunter, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it. And
Problem.
yeah, I mean, you guys can find me. You guys can find me at Philly Insider Podcast on YouTube and on InsideEagles.com. And I'm also interning at Phillies Nation right now, which has been awesome. But if you want to go check out my writing stuff, so appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
I no problem. Don't worry. I have your channel linked in the description, so people know where I can find you. But yeah, before we get started, so if you guys haven't noticed, I have actually had one of my custom mugs from my Teespring store. So you guys, if anyone wants to get cop some merch, my Teespring store will be linked down below in the description. At least help support. But before we get we got Slay going in the chat.
Slay.
And then I got my good buddy, my EU.
AK, what's up, man?
But first topic. It's self-explanatory. The Gardner Minshew trade. Because I saw the gave of the great A. I feel like that's fair because it's like, not to mention, like, we got him at a bar, like, giving up a 2022 conditional 6th-round pick, could potentially be a 5th round. I just feel like, I think it's going to really pay off for the Eagles, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, you look at this trade. Look, Gardner Minshew in his 2 years in the league he's been very impressive for a late round pick. I mean, Gardner Minshew is definitely more effective than most backups, I would say. Obviously last year, Jaguars did not have much success, and they had to kind of switch things up with Jake Luton and other guys to see if they could just get a change and get a spark. I don't really think it was anything against Minshew. I mean, the whole roster was pretty depleted last year. And look, I think Minshew, from the studying I've done on him, biggest issues are just getting past the first read and kind of getting a little too happy with his feet when he's got a clean pocket and anticipating the rush. That can also result just from having a bad O-line and anticipating a rush when there's not a rush there. But I think that he's got typical issues that a young quarterback has, but there's no reason he can't come in and win you football games. I think he's shown that with the Jaguars. He had 6 wins his rookie year there. And look, you've also got him under control for 2022 and 2023 as well. So you've got an extra year of control there. And, Joe Flacco's only on a 1-year deal. He's really just a veteran presence here. Now, he might get the nod if something happens to Jalen Hurts just because he's the veteran. But Gardner Minshew is definitely a guy who, if everything goes haywire or if there's a COVID, something with COVID or anything like that, he could always possibly step in. So.
Yeah.
What's up, Nate Talk Sports?
Yeah, what's going on, Nate?
Too, man.
but yeah, and not to mention because like you said, he also brought that Minshew mania when who went down for Jaguar when that started.
Foles.
Oh, that's right. God, that's just like God. That's like God. This guy looks like fucking Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. It's like what the heck? That's like. But yeah, I mean, guy, and not to mention, even off the football field, the dude knows how to have some swag to him. And Thomas R. Known from ADT Radio like put us on and say, "Better hide your wives and girlfriends and all that stuff." Because I was like, "Wow." But yeah, I think, like you said, Joe Flacco brings the veteran presence there, but I feel like he's going to really help push Gardner Minshew and Jalen Hurts both respectively. Despite it's a 1-year deal, but I think Joe Flacco can bring a lot of knowledge to the game, Absolutely. Like you said, and with Gardner Minshew, and I said this before, like he's not as fleet-footed as Jalen Hurts, but like say if you need like a screen pass or the short passing game, Minshew can bring that to the table, which nowadays like people are so like accustomed to using the deep ball, and having I think having him under Sirianni, I think it's really going to bring out the best of what Minshew can bring. But and then I see these two people on Twitter making a whole big deal about it. I was like, because of the you know what controversy, you know, the last the shit that was like, what the hell am I seeing? I was like, oh, not this shit again. I was like,
yeah,
that's just like it's like they're spinning out of proportion, but yeah, and I'm seeing this from an objective from my because I never played football, but I'm just looking at the perspectives.
right.
We haven't really had a solid backup since Nick Foles. In my I might be wrong with on others, but that's the only one I can think of who's a very solid backup. But now look, and I like Joe Flacco because of the South Jersey bias, because he's from Audubon. You know that really hits close to home. I just feel like if you want to get the nod, I say give the nod to Minshew. In my honest opinion, anyways. Just because I think Minshew has a little bit more to prove than Joe Flacco does, and not to mention Minshew is still young, so it's like at least because this entire team's young at this point in the season.
Yeah.
And that brings me to the this one. What's the expectations are you going to see from the squad?
Yeah, I mean, well, if it's okay, I just want to touch on something you said too.
Go ahead.
Earlier. I mean, I completely agree with you, especially in the short passing game with screens and stuff like that. Because I mean, you look at Sirianni; he's done a very good job of getting the ball into playmakers' hands in space throughout his coaching career, especially in Indianapolis with Frank Reich, where he worked with, obviously he worked with 3 different quarterbacks in 3 different years. So I just wanted to further your point a little bit there and say that I 100% agree with you on that, and that he can definitely cater to Minshew's play style. And also Minshew, like you said, maybe not the same scrambler as Jalen Hurts, but he can run it a little bit. So, I just agree with you there. And yeah, expectations for the Eagles as a whole. I think that you have to expect, for one, they're a young team. I think that a lot of us are very excited. I'm very excited about the talent we have and how it's going to work together. I think it's going to be a well-oiled machine once we get everything nailed down. But I think it's important to note that this is a young roster. There's going to be lack of execution at times. There's going to be a lot of learning curves for some of them. I mean, Jalen Reagor went through a lot of it last year with the growing pains. He also, I do defend him from time to time because there were a lot of times where he ran very clean routes and quarterbacks didn't get him the ball in space, which doesn't show up in the stat sheet. If you wanted to add to that real quick.
Oh, yeah. And I was thinking to add to Reagor, and the other thing too is like, I thought Russ, okay, that's going to be a solid pick. Despite, TCU is not a football school from what I've seen, places like Alabama, Oklahoma, LSU, some of these SEC schools. So it's like, like you said, Reagor has gone through the growing pains, and I have a feeling he actually has told some of the young receivers, like, look, I went through it. Yeah. I was hurt at the time. Look, I was trying my damn hardest to, prove as I was worth that pick. Mm-hmm. But now we're going to have someone like Devontae Smith, who I'm really hoping he can still bring that height that he had coming out of Alabama, which I think he should. I mean, there's no really doubt about it.
Agreed.
But there's going to be a lot of breakouts, like Josh Sweat on the defensive end. Obviously Miles Sanders is probably the number one to bring it out. And Gainwell's actually, for as small as Gainwell is, he can bring some pot. He can block too for guys, someone that's small.
Yes, he can.
That's it. That's very. It's like I've been seeing he hits laid some hard hits. It's like I was like, there's just no way this is the same. This is Kenny Gainwell late. But I mean, I was like, man, I think that I'm hopefully and somebody brought this up. This was a good point. Like if we say hypothetically, if we lose Slay to injury, we're screwed at the secondary position. We are screwed.
We're done.
Exactly. Yeah. But one guy to finish. Sorry to cut you off, but
no, go for it.
The one guy I've been really keeping my eye on at the college level is Stingley from LSU.
Yeah,
he's the only guy, and I said that, and I said this too. It's just like if we can get someone like Stingley, because obviously who knows how long Slay's going to have that longevity in the league. So, and also Zach McPherson's been balling out too. So why not give him an opportunity?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I just want to touch on your Gainwell point too. I mean, same guy who knocked Micah Parsons flat on his back one time. And I believe it was a bowl game when Memphis was playing against them this past, or 2 years ago, I guess it would be, since Gainwell opted out. But I love that you mentioned that, because I always emphasize with running backs that pass protection is so important. All three phases of being a running back, whether it's running, receiving, but especially pass protection, because if you're able to pass protect, it's not tipping your hand. I mean, you had Corey Clement and Boston Scott in there last year who definitely had their issues. Looks like Boston Scott's been better this training camp and in preseason at pass protection, which is an encouraging sign. But Corey Clement, for example, love him for the Super Bowl run, everything he did, but
just couldn't pass protect for crazy.
Exactly. And when he was in there, the defense kind of knew he probably wasn't going to stay in the pass protect most of the time, which kind of tips your hand at what the play call is already going to be for the most part. And then, and you go for it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because as much as I look Corey Clement, but because I feel like smaller running backs know how to pass protect. And I've been seeing that too from I remember Darren Sproles. I think he was an okay pass protector, but he knew how to get in position. Like Corey Clement, who was 6'3", 6'4", give or take, if his height.
Bigger than Sproles for sure.
And that's the thing too, is like Kenny Gainwell, who's under 6 foot and still can give you hard hits. It's like the fact you laid out Michael Parsons, who's probably one of the better linebackers of that draft class. It's like, what in the world? It's like, well, yeah, we all know that Jordan Howard too is also going to be a great pass blocker too, but I just feel like this is more going to be on. At one point, I was very critical. It's like, is he really going to have that same breakout when he first came to Philly? I was really what's the word? I'm critical, but kind of thinking hypothetically. Say if he hadn't had that shoulder stinger, who knows how many yards he could have had? Think about it, because now you're going to have Kenny Gainwell, who is also a dual threat running back too. So you're going to have someone like a combination. So you're going to have Miles Sanders as the speed guy who can also catch too, and you got pass in the pass block for Jordan Howard. So you got a combination of that, and Kenny Gainwell also he's also family to Fletcher Cox as his cousin. Which at one point I did not know that. It's like
I didn't know that either.
And another thing too is just like. And not to mention too, and another thing I've been actually talked about this too, and someone brought this up. I can't remember who. Someone mentioned that if you have agile guys who are 6'8", 350 plus pounds on your O line, I mean, there's no telling what that O line can do. Which I know, even though that was one of our weak spots, but Mailata, I thought I've always had I still have high hopes for Mailata. By far, the fact that you come from a whole different sport altogether, from the Australia Football League, or technically rugby, is what's known, but still, I mean, it's like, and then you pick up a football, and then you're still laying people out. It's like, I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
We got Howie Rose with the chat. Very
this guy
nice.
Follows me everywhere. He's in all my streams, man. It's wild. It's actually kind of creepy, but I love him. He loves my channel, so I
and that's another thing too. And I said this before in my earlier podcast episode. I'm surprised how long Howie's leash is here in Philly. At one point, I'm thinking to myself, he should have been gone already. But his leash is it's so long. It's it's not even funny.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
No, honestly. And yeah, just talking about Kenny Gainwell a little bit too. Yeah, like you said, dual threat, compares very similarly to Nyheim Hines, who obviously next year Sirianni coach. I follow a lot of American Conference football because Temple plays there, and they're really the only actual in the city D1 team. Obviously, we have Penn State, but I love Temple. So I mean, I watched a lot of American Conference, and Memphis is obviously in the same conference. So I watched a lot of Tony Pollard, Darrell Henderson, Kenny Gainwell, and Antonio Gibson over the past few years at Memphis. And yeah, Kenny was just the next version of them. And speaking of which, I mean, 5'11", 190-ish, I think, but I think he put up 22 bench press reps at the combine. He's not afraid to go seek contact and bounce off of defenders. He's got really good contact balance. So that man is going to contribute both in the receiving and running game. And I think you already see Sirianni kind of hinting at 21 personnel with him and Miles Sanders both on the field at the same time as well. And Jordan Howard, like you said, big bruiser back. He can pass protect a little bit. And yeah, it's a shame. Ever since that shoulder stinger, it seems like things have gone downhill a little bit for him. But the Miami experience for him, I really just chalk up to, they really only used him on, if you look at all his touches, he was used on the goal line and 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 when they had heavy sets in there with multiple tight ends. It wasn't like they were just letting him go out there with a couple wide receivers on the field, spread it out a little bit, and then it was just him in the backfield and single back and then just pounding up the middle, right? Which is a lot of what he was doing in Philly. And you saw him going back to Philly last year when he got elevated from the practice squad. He had a few nice runs. I think he had like a 15-yard run in one of his first games back with us last year against Green Bay. So I'm really excited to see Jordan Howard back here. I think he's going to be in a new role where he can thrive. I know a lot of people point to guys like Jay Ajayi to say that we shouldn't keep bringing him back, but Jay Ajayi had a torn ACL and
that's hard to come back from.
Exactly.
Say like you said, JJ wasn't the same after he tore his ACL. Take Brandon Brooks, for example. 2 Achilles in the last, couple of years. It's like, man, the guy can't catch a break. But the fact that he came back last season, 6 months off Achilles, it's like, most times now you're taking over a year or 2 years to recover from that. But it takes you 6 months to recover from Achilles. Like,
yeah, I remember last year we were talking about him possibly playing a playoff game if we had made it.
Ooh.
Wild to think about.
And I still like Brandon Brooks too. I mean, he's still got. I think was he like somewhere in his 20s, give or take? I don't even know how old he's.
I think he's in his early 30s now.
Okay, so he's he's getting a little bit up there in age, but I think he just and that's the thing too. Like, if he can stay healthy, I mean, there's no telling how dangerous Brandon Brooks can be. And you just got to think too. Then I think if Brandon Graham retires, I think Josh Sweat's probably going to take that spot, or at least hopefully, and then hopefully see what Ryan Kerrigan. And I forgot about Ryan Kerrigan too. Like, that one flew under the radar with me. I was like, because it's like, obviously look at the team. So it's like, there's no way the Eagles got him. Next thing I know, wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning and see the Eagles. Like, what the? It's like, what am I seeing? Like where's these under the radar sightings coming from? Yeah, but having someone like Kerrigan and the way and I get it that his playing time was diminished because he had someone like Chase Young and who's scary on the it's just
a lot of guys in the trenches there.
Yeah, and I was like, the fact that now he's here in Eagles green is like, wow, okay. It's just like, it's insane to. I mean, at one point, people were calling me crazy because I had this team on paper as a 14-win team, but at best I said 11-6. As like the worst case is 10-7. Maybe best is probably 11-6 or 12-5 at your best case scenario to take the division. Playoff wise, I am not entirely too sure if how like I said before, the my buddy Nightings too.
Nightings, what's going on, brother?
Always popping up in the in my gaming streams every now and again.
He's everywhere.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy, but
he's awesome.
But to finish my thought, it's just like, it's the health, and I'm very concerned about it. If the Eagles can stay healthy, maybe there's a possibility they can go in a deep playoff run.
Yeah.
If not,
absolutely.
I say at the worst case scenario, it's a second round exit, but that's my worst case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Josh Sweat too. I think I might have been a year early on his breakout. I had him pegged as my breakout star last year, which the first couple weeks of the season, that prediction was looking really, really nice, but kind of cooled off, had the injury issues a little bit, and then did come on strong at the end of the season though. I absolutely think with more reps this year, he's just gonna continue to blossom. My only concern is that, with him at Florida State, I know the reason he was a 4th round pick was those knee problems, and we'll see if he can handle a bigger workload. But even then, I think he's going to be, I don't want to say who's going to get majority or anything because I can't predict it, but he's going to be fairly even splitting reps with Barnett. I think it's safe to say, whether we like it or not. But I think you're going to see, I think that's to a benefit to Josh Sweat because his knee's not going to have as much wear and tear. But either way, I think he's set to produce in the snaps he's going to have. Kerrigan, like you said too, just to touch on that real quick. Yeah, I mean, it feels like we always have one of those signings like May-ish or maybe even later than that, like Eric Blount the Super Bowl year. That always, and Chris Long as well, that always kind of flies under the radar, but always ends up contributing in a big way. And I think Kerrigan's going to play a very similar role to Chris Long.
And to mention that, like you said, it reminds me of the Chris signing, but I think Kerrigan could probably be a better little bit than Chris Long because Chris Long was on his last legs.
Yeah, and he was only really a third down pass rusher.
And that's the thing, and that's why I think about Jordan Howard too. Is like, why not just use him as a third down, like a Marshawn type Lynch or a Marshawn Lynch type, which even though I'm not a Seahawks fan, that's still left the sour taste in my mouth. And you don't really use them. That's still left the sour taste in my mouth. It's like you're like that far to the goal line, and then I was like, why? Yeah. And trust me, and because my grandmother, by all means, she is a Giants fan, but she did not like, and she's a huge football fanatic because she grew up in the era with like Lawrence Taylor was one of their better players that they had back in the day, and she was not happy with Pete Carroll, his play calling decision to go passing where you're about 2 yards out, and then man, that really annoys me.
Make it make sense.
It does. But yeah, I mean, I think if for Sweat, like, yeah, I've known about his knee injury. You know, I mean, obviously the 4th round pick, but having someone like Sweat, but he can really pick the brains of Brandon Graham and Ryan Kerrigan. So like, you got two pretty good veteran guys to pick their brains from, and probably even be better. You know, hopefully, really replicate, probably even get better. Oh, I got Philly repping in here. What's going on, my guy?
What's up? On my channel a lot, my guy. What's going on? No, yeah, I completely agree, and you know, I think in terms of prediction overall for the team, I'm thinking around. I've stuck with kind of 8 or 9 wins the whole offseason, maybe 7. But I think our floor is 6. I don't know why. A lot of people, since I go to a campus, you know, a lot of people from all over the country come.
They're always hating on us.
Yeah, I know. Like, look, I know we're coming off a
because at one point I said my floor was 7. My floor was 9, like 9 and 8. That was my floor for them. But if everything goes well, maybe this team could probably be at least a 13-14 game winner. Mm-hmm. I mean that might be a stretch, but because you got a lot of rookies coming in, but it sounds like a stretch. But there is a possibility that can really happen. Because think about it this way: 2017, you know, we got off to a very slow start, and then once we started getting that steam rolling, you know, even though we had some rookies on that team, we actually finished the season 13-3. So there is a possibility we can replicate what we did in 2017, despite, you know, and I had people tell me, so look, we kind of probably peaked too soon. I was like, I don't think we did, because I feel like we actually got the necessary pieces to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. We were ready for it. And I mean, just talking about the Super Bowl year too, I know a lot of people will probably combat that and say, like, you know, that we only lost 1 game to start the year. But look, I mean, that Washington game, we did come out of the gate strong, but it was close until Fletcher Cox knocked the ball out. Then we lose to the Chiefs the next week. Then, you know, thanks to Jake Elliott's 61-yard field goal, that is what sparked momentum. But those first 2 games and 3 quarters of the first game, we did come out of the gate slow that year.
Exactly.
I would say. So,
and like, you know, and speaking of Jake Elliott, man, it's just like, I kind of feel bad for the guy. You know, people are kind of shitting on him a little bit, but it's just like, I mean, like the guy, like if you need like a 61-yard, like he can hit that for you like 100% of the time. Like, and I've seen this too. It's just like you're missing like chip shots like 20 yards away. It's just like, really. Yeah. But I think he's. I mean, I know this may sound crazy, but I think he's going to probably be the breakout kicker, to a certain extent, if he makes all of his field goals. Which, knocking on wood, I hope he does. And that's the thing. And this new punter too. What's his name? He's an Australian guy. I forgot what his name
Aaron
was.
Sipas.
I forgot we signed him too. It's just like, God, I think and I like Cameron Johnston too, man. He actually was very solid. Me too. And John Dornbus, I felt like he was a solid long snapper, you know. But I think overall, I think we did a pretty good job. I know that's the thing. I know how he gets a lot of crap that he gets, but what I do give him credit for is some of the pieces he has built around Jalen Hurts, what we really needed. Yeah, I know we still got question marks at the cornerback position, like because we got Slate for 1 more year, if I'm not mistaken, from this extension, and then we got and I think we also got Nelson for 1 more year too. So once those guys walk, we are screwed. But from what I've seen from Zach McPherson, I mean, there's a possibility Zach can probably be, you know, can be like the next. Well, I mean, it sounds like crazy, but like probably the next Slay or Steven Nelson. You know, not like a lockdown corner, but you know, like a speedy corner can really you know, what's the word I'm looking for here? I just think I thought of the word and just escaped my mind.
I hate when that happens.
I can't think of it, but some like a Patrick Surtain kind of corner, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and also you mentioned Derek Stingley earlier. Also in addition to him, I mean, there's guys like I know Andrew Booth is kind of the sleeper pick from Clemson coming up on this year, depending on how he does. I believe there's a guy from Cincinnati Bearcats who's I think his name is it's Ahmad Gardner, but he goes by Sauce Gardner, which is just a great nickname. But look, there's going to be the quarterback class next year is very very nice, and we're going to have first round picks. So I think you're going to definitely. I know it hasn't been the norm to invest early on in cornerbacks. At least in the first round, we haven't in quite a bit, I don't believe. The closest we got was Sidney Jones in round 2, which only happened because of his Achilles injury. But yeah. I do think that, you could see them invest next year with the amount of picks they're, assuming Carson gets us that.
Exactly. And not to mention, we also own the Dolphins' first round pick too, as well. So
exactly. So we've got 3 picks there.
Exactly.
We can always shore up the secondary and take some pressure off McPherson, keep him on the second outside spot. Maybe he moves into the slot at some point if that's where they feel he's best fit. But there's always options if he's not the top guy. And but speaking of just like the team overall, I mean, I just don't get a lot of people think that we're going to finish around 3 and 5 wins. We have a very winnable schedule. I mean, you look at this talking about the Super Bowl year again too. I'll go for it.
Yeah, to add on that, I saw that I think the only games is what's going to give us problems is the Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Maybe the Raiders. Maybe the Raiders. I'm not entirely sure how good the Raiders are going to be, but I think the teams are going to give it. Well, even the Saints too. I forgot about the Saints too because, and I was talking to my coworker. He's a huge Saints fan, and we were talking about this too. It's just like having Jameis Winston have a change of scenery from Tampa Bay and what he can do. Now you can play it under this the smart head coach and Sean Payton. I think I could see Jameis Winston being a Pro Bowler. I mean, I know people. I know people could give him knack because of the 30 for 30 stuff,
right?
But there's a ceiling there to him. Like you said, there's 3 teams. Maybe possibly 4. The 4th is the Raiders. Don't know what to know about the Raiders, but I know that 3 teams are going to give us fits. It's the Chiefs because they're always going to be good because you got Pat Mahomes. Right. For God's sakes, Andy Reid. That brings.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay because obviously you got Bruce Arians and Tom Brady, which is surprising to me that he was still playing at his age. That's a thing myself. You don't see quarterbacks now. Yeah, but and the Saints. Those are the 3 teams I think are really going to give us trouble.
Right. And I think you look at that. I actually completely agree with you on Jameis Winston, which is I'm surprised I found someone else who has the same opinion because I know, like you said, a lot of people just give him crap for the 30 for 30 and the laser eye surgery and everything. But look, I mean, just watching an interview from him, I believe at the beginning of August, I remember him just talking. It was outside on the practice field, and just the way he was talking about the game of football. And the way he was composing himself, he seems like a completely different person, a brand new mind there. I think the change of scenery, like you said, is going to be huge for him. And I think, Sean Payton just pouring into him, pouring in his football knowledge there. He got a year to sit under Drew Brees. And, Winston's got a little more of an arm on him than Drew Brees does, at least at this point in his career, right?
Yeah.
Winston's definitely got some arm talent there. And if he can just learn to be a little bit smarter with the football and know when to not try to force a ball into too tight of a window or just not make a bogus throw sometimes, I think he's going to be a lot better. I think that year on the bench benefited him a ton. And I think when he signed there, he came there knowing that he was going to sit there for a year and then have a chance to be the starter next year. And now he is going to be the starter. So
exactly.
They're going to give us some trouble.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's the thing to out of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, I mean, Drew Brees is, you can really make the arguments you could probably sit under Peyton Manning for a year, Tom Brady for a year, or Drew Brees. It's you can got those guys you can pick their brains from. And like you said, Drew Brees hasn't had that arm strength like he once he had during his prime. Because I remember in his prime, he had tremendous arm strength. And the fact that all the controversial stuff that he said later after retired, but don't want to talk about that. But I feel at this point, I feel like you said, I think that year benefited him. And if I'm Jameis Winston, thinking, okay, look, okay, so I might have to hit the reset button on after what has gone transpired, especially in my time with Tampa Bay. And you got to think too, Bruce Arians is a tough coach to learn from. Even Tom Brady himself said like it was hard to learn his playbook. And think about it this way. Tampa Bay was off to a slow start. What was the last? I think we're like 6-3. I don't remember what the record was to start the year before that. That slow start, but I think soon as Tom Brady,
I think they started 7-5 possibly.
Yeah, it was 7-5 because I think after that, I think they started going on a good winning streak because and it's weird to see how Tom Brady set himself as less like you never heard anything from Tom Brady says like this is a complex playbook to learn from. It's like what the hell? But no, don't get me wrong. I mean, you got like two other quarterbacks who are no doubt Hall of Famers. That's for certain.
Exactly.
But I think this is where, yeah, exactly. This is what Bleed Green said. I feel like Jameson, he is about to pop off when like you said, when he has got to be smart with the football. And do I really fuck it? I'll just bring this up. It just reminds me like of the Carson Wentz thing too. Like, because look, but yeah, like the arm strength was there, but sometimes the IQ wasn't. And that's what I'm saying. And this is what I'm trying to allude to. It's like, and now what I'm seeing from Jalen Hurts is like, he's got the combination, even though he may not have, he's got some good arm strength, but it's not like a rocket arm, but he still can still chuck it. But
absolutely.
And he knows when not to force a pass. It's like, okay, look, if the play's not there, he just kills it just throw it away. And I just feel like, I mean, obviously Alkabir's in the chat. That's a first. That's a first for me.
Alkabir.
But yeah, he is true. Like, because I never hated Winston. I thought he was a solid pick in that draft class. It's like, I was like, if the Tampa Bay is going to take anybody, so I was like, I was really hoping Jameis Winston because at that time I feel like he was like one of the better quarterback names on that draft class.
Yeah,
and that's the thing too. Like, there's some years in the draft classes like this year was what I think was wide receiver heavy. I know that
absolutely,
which it was weird to see, and I don't know. Like, there's a lot of teams. Like, I've been seeing like a lot of teams says like us. We're trying to figure out our new identity. With Sirianni, how everything's going to roll. Like Jacksonville. God knows how they're. Speaking of Jacksonville. I'm gonna feel bad for Trevor Lawrence, man, because if that O-line doesn't do anything, he's gonna get killed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's already getting killed. It's a shame.
My god, that breaks my. Because I'm a huge Clemson guy when it comes to college football. Clemson is my team. And I was like, man, I feel like he's like. I am.
Tell me about it.
I was like, man,
I'm really worried for him. I mean,
I
know. Even in college, even with Clemson, because he had such a clean O-line. When there was trouble, yes, he can make a play out of a broken play, but sometimes he does struggle a little bit when he's pressured. He's beautiful when he has a clean pocket, but he's gonna have to learn. He's gonna have to learn how to deal with it in Jacksonville.
And that's why I have a feeling that's why I think Jacksonville shipped off Gardner Minshew, because I think they wanted him over. See, that's the thing to like. Look, and that's the thing. If you started Minshew over Trevor Lawrence, like I wouldn't be too upset about that, because now you're going to see some like Trevor Lawrence's caliber going to get ruined per se, because it's like now like you said, the O-line is just so horrendous. Now he lost his best running back at Travis Etienne. It's like Jacksonville is. I feel like Jacksonville is probably one of the toughest conferences or divisions in the AFC, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Alkabir asked about not to change the topic, but Jacob Eason on the Colts.
He looks pretty good.
He has looked really good thus far.
He looks very solid, though. I think. Yeah, and that's the thing with these quarterbacks in the later round picks. Like, there's some like diamonds in the rough kind of quarterbacks. I feel like Eason's going to be really. It's going to be one of them. Now they have Wentz on the COVID IL list that he got placed on. So it's like, I think at this point, it's like now I mean, obviously you still got the genius mind of Frank Reich. I mean, who knows what that future can hold for Eason? because I've always enjoyed watching Easton in college. It's like I was like, hey, this is gonna be a good guy. Could be a top 10 starting quarterback someday because of what he can give you.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about Easton in college too. That's exactly what I was about to touch on. I mean, you look at Georgia quarterbacks. Obviously, Jake Fromm got drafted, but you also had Justin Fields as a backup there at one point, and Jacob Eason played there at one point. Like they have had, while they've had a lot of starting quarterbacks who haven't exactly translated, they also started to have more and more. And I believe JT Daniels is supposed to start there this year, who's going to be pretty good. And, Jacob Eason then transfers to Washington, where they had Jake Browning, who's also in the league now. And they also ran a very clean offense there when they had John Ross, even before, a little bit before Eason, I think. And they had Dante Pettis and all of them. So, he's definitely had some experience around some nice coaching staffs and nice talent in college, and he's no slouch. I mean, the Colts really seem to value him, and we finally, last year we didn't get a preseason, but this year we got to see a little bit of him in preseason, and both him and Ellinger looked really good in preseason from what I heard.
Yeah, I saw that too. Ellinger was also a good stud too. I was God. And that's the thing too. It's just like I feel like I don't know about Jake Fromm though, because I really never watched Georgia football. Because I don't know what to have any expectations for because obviously was he with the Buffalo Bills? If I'm not mistaken, that drafted him.
Yeah, he's the third string now because they picked up Trubisky. But point being, he made it. He got to Georgia, so just another Georgia quarterback there. But
but yeah, I mean, and speaking of Jacksonville, it's just like now you lose a great running back in Travis Etienne. Now, and now if I'm the front office and you're seeing your star. Potentially your superstar quarterback Trevor Lawrence getting killed out there. You have to. You would think you need to bolster up that bolster up. Oh, actually, on both sides because they are so horrendous on both sides. Yeah, which is like, how do you? And I'm thinking to myself like, yeah, I get it. One team's like is good on one side of the football, but the fact you have one team that's horrendous on both sides, it should tell you like. The front. There's something that needs to be done with the front office, in my honest opinion. Because think about it this way: because we had to deal with bad drafting the last God, how long? Oh God, I'm dating myself back here.
Because so many years.
Yeah, because we messed up like some like great talent, like DK for one. But then again, who else? Someone brought a good point up. It's like if we even got those, it's like even with Doug Peterson still around. They would still be screwed over anyway. So I was like, I mean, the positives is like now they're having the best season of their careers, but now the positives for us, Doug Peterson is out the door, but we still had him. Actually, that's another thing too. Bleak Green actually met. I had a feeling Elijah Holyfield was going to get cut. Because
me too.
I said this too. He was and I had he was a waste of a roster spot. I mean, there was no way you're going to beat out Huntley, Jordan Howard, Kenny Gainwell, and Miles Sanders. And Huntley, on the other hand, Huntley is just something else. And the Killian Swan, man, it just really annoyed the living crap out of me. I was like, why would you? Because he was such a stud in preseason. Like, then all of a sudden you get cut him. But I think, I have a feeling we're going to carry 4 or 5 running backs this season. Maybe 3. That depends.
Yeah, I have. So I previously I had this remained the same. Even now, I had Sanders, Gainwell, Howard, and Scott making it. Those were my 4. Just especially after I didn't expect, honestly. I thought Howard and Scott might be bubble guys just because coming into preseason, I mean, carry on. Also, another guy is really good at pass protecting. Unfortunately, he got hurt, but I also thought Huntley was going to have a really good chance, which he also got hurt too, which really sucks. But he didn't get to play the last 2 preseason games. But Huntley's a great guy too. Joe Castro interviewed him. Me and my buddy Sanjay got to interview him too. Super nice guy and just a good locker room guy. And it seems like he connects well with other running backs, but also, speaking in terms of the football aspect, talk about a lot of people compare Kenny Gainwell and Nyheim Hines. Jason Huntley, I mean, you look at him and Nyheim Hines side by side in terms of measurables and where they were drafted and just their stories. They are extremely similar. And both of them have special teams ability. Huntley could make the team just because of his kick return ability. The only thing that steers me away from keeping him is that now they're going to keep an extra quarterback with Minshew being here, and then they activate Landon Dickerson and Rodney McLeod, which means 2 less roster spots, which could be utilized at the O-line and safety position, but also could be allocated elsewhere. So it is going to be tough to keep Huntley, but I think he has
tough. It is tough. And not to mention, I think the wide receiver one, I mean, the locks I can see is Watkins, Ward, Devontae Smith, and there was another one that I saw, and Rager. I can't remember Rager, that was his name.
Yeah.
But the fact that I see Fulgham on a bubble, man, that's a shame, though, man. I had high hopes for it. The fact do I really want to fuck it? Like the fact you're having J-Jaw have as being better than Fulgham, it's like, what am I seeing?
Yeah, that's very disappointing.
That is very disappointing. And the joke that me and Mitch, and I kind of stole this joke from Mitch too, so it's like the only other thing to make the team is J-Daw's umbrella. I was like, that's a recurring joke between with Mitch. It's just like
yeah.
It's just like, but then again, like I at one point I was like, I kind of gave him up too soon. But if Sirianni could find a way to, bring out what J-Jaw could have, maybe I'm gonna probably definitely eat my words then. I mean, at one point, I was like, I really had no faith in J-Jaw. So I was like, he was okay. I think he was okay in college at one point in his career, but it's just I don't know though. But then again, he had what? I think most of the wide receivers we had last year during his rookie season had more catches than he ever would. It's just like I was like, I have a feeling this guy's going to get cut already. But the fact he's having a better preseason than Travis Fulgham, like, oof, that's saying something.
Absolutely, yeah, disappointing. When I go back and watch J-Jaw's tape from 2020 specifically, I took a look at his red zone snaps, and a lot of time he was lined up in line towards the formation or in the slot. And he ran a lot of clean routes out of both spots, which was surprising. And Jason Avant has said he should be a slot receiver. I believe Johnny Page from Bleeding Green Nation did a film breakdown on him his rookie year and said he should be a big slot receiver because that's definitely a trend in the NFL today. But, the fact that he is, I'll say this, the fact that, his expectation now is kind of to be just kind of a red zone slot guy, at least my expectation for him at the most, is definitely we expect him to be that dominant X receiver on the outside who is going to go up and play one-on-one and go get the ball and, really run a lot of Chris Rouse and replace Alshon. But, I think that says a lot about J-Jaw's development to this point. I hope this new coaching staff is getting the best out of him and that this is the turning point and that he can do well. But it is a shame that it comes at Travis Fulgham's expense because, he also, to make matters worse, he also hasn't helped himself this preseason or really stood out much at all either. So it is very confusing, especially after, look, I don't expect Fulgham to be the wide receiver one he was in those 5 games last year all the time, but I do expect after that to see him at least be a depth piece who can be used in the red zone occasionally. So it's a shame. It's really weird.
It is a shame, though. And like you said, I feel like if the coaching side can bring out the best in J-Jaw, I think he could be the next Alshon type. Like you say, what Alshon brought to the table when we brought him in, like a tall receiver that can really get it up there. And but yeah, I mean, it's just like seeing. I mean, obviously we have a wide receiver one, and that's Devontae Smith, hands down. And I think at this point, having someone like, and that's the thing too. And I said this about Sirianni, it's just like seeing the different chemistry and seeing the chemistry that's getting really built into this organization after what Peterson has brought, but I feel like and this is and I think about Sirianni too. What I like about it is because as a former player himself, a former wide receiver, he knows how to go do it the old school way. Really, actually, because I never played football. Because the way we do things, like our high school football team, the way we do things is like our coaches literally will hold pads and stuff like that. So he will do that. I was like, I think this is why I think Sirianni is going to really be successful in Philadelphia. Because he knows how to connect to the players, where he actually thrives on competition, compared to what Peterson brought was veteran nepotism. I forgot. Oh, Philly Reppin, thank you that's another name, Hightower.
Yeah,
that's a tough one because from what I've been hearing, he actually has lost drive for the game.
That's what I've heard as well.
Yeah, I was like, man. And now you're seeing Quez Watkins really starting to break out of his shell. This is like, at this point, I mean, do you think you really can cut Fulgham and Hightower at this point?
Yeah, I think you got to keep one of them. I think they're going to keep 6 wideouts just because of how young the group is, and I think you want to keep one of them around to see what they've got and at least try to retain one of them on the practice squad. I do think whichever one does, I think one of them is getting cut. I think we'll all rejoice if they both make it and J-Jaw gets cut. But
I think I think we can hope so.
I expect J-Jaw to make this team, but I think that whichever one of them gets cut, I do have the expectation that someone else is going to pick one of them up because Fulgham, obviously, just because he's a name now after he did have that stretch last year, and someone else is going to see if they can get that out of him for wide receiver depth. There's someone else is going to have a roster spot for him, at least a rebuilding team. And I think Hightower, Jason Avant said that last year during the season, he thought he was the best route runner on the team. This is before Devontae Smith came here, of course, but he thought he was the best route runner, and he was really only used as a deep threat last year. I think he can be used at all 3 levels of the field. But I expect him to also get looks elsewhere and possibly get a spot on someone else's roster, which I think does say a lot about the youth we have at the position and, just the depth we have there, even though it's still a lot of unknowns for the most
exactly.
part.
And I think if Sirianni can bring, I think if other than J-Jaw, I think another one I would think to make it is Hightower because now you're seeing what Quez Watkins can bring to the table. But if Sirianni can really do what he can do, how he worked with Quez Watkins, now you got 2 tall wideouts can really kill you. Now, obviously we all know that Devontae Smith is really going to kill you with his route running. We all know that for a fact. Yeah. The fact that and now you see like we want to call a screen pass to Quez Watkins, like the separation he gets is insane. To see the separation he's going to get, like it's just like okay. So look, he's like playing like line, like the quarterback is right on, but next thing you know, he turns it up a gear. It's like what? I was like, oh,
he's got a whole second gear.
And it's just like it's insane.
Yeah,
but that was kind of what my thing for the Eagles. I mean, like you said, there's a bunch of unknowns, but you also got to think too. There's going to be some veterans that are going to be gone soon.
Exactly.
Fletcher Kelsey's one of them. Cox is another one. Brandon Graham, Johnson, Cox, Graham. Maybe possibly Graham probably retires. I mean, which is funny because I think out of that 2010 drive, I think he's the only one that's actually stayed with that team from that. And I think 2010. I think it was when we drafted him. I might be wrong. Mm-hmm. It's just like he's been like a while. Yes, and I'm surprised he actually stayed longer than most. And that's the thing, stay longer than some of these players that has come through the city of Philadelphia, whether it's either the Phillies, the Flyers, the Sixers, the Eagles, like whatever the case may be. But I just feel like it's just like Brandon. Like if you have someone like Brandon Graham who actually wants to stay, like I mean, as much as I know it's going to suck that he's going to retire, but I'd like to see him retire as an Eagle. That's just kind of my thing. And that's another thing with Zach Ertz. Now, we all know about that situation. But the only reason why I can't hate Zach Ertz is how much he's done for the city.
Exactly.
That's the only reason.
Family foundation and everything.
Like, it's just like his wife is just a tremendous superstar for the women's national team, which, to be honest, I'm actually kind of play. I think it's 17 Philly. I think it's a 17 game season. I'm not. Who knows at this point?
Correct. You're correct.
But yeah, I think Philly knew what I was talking about. But like, originally I was like, really, because I feel like now you got someone like Dallas Goedert, who I think he's going to be another breakout tight end. And then you're going to have Richard Rodgers, who also is another stud that the Eagles are going to keep. So I feel like they're going to keep like 3 tight ends on this 53-man roster. Because Mitch brought up a good point with this one. If we traded Ertz after we won the Super Bowl, man, he had a high trade value. But the fact that when he got hurt, I feel that really was lowered his trade value. It's like, ugh. I was like, and look, and that's the thing too. Like, I don't want to trade him, but at this point, I mean, you're going to have to really let Goddard shine, because think about it this way: look how long we had Brent Selleck for. Then we drafted Zach Ertz. It's like a rotating wheel of tight ends, because Selleck passed the torch to him. Now I think it's time for Ertz to do the same thing to Goddard, and it's probably the same on for the next 5, 10, 20 years from down the road.
Definitely. Yeah, I did read that. Shout out to Mike K. Credit to him for this. The Eagles are likely to. They always do this with Richard Rodgers. They always do the old cut him and bring him back. What they're likely to do is his contract isn't guaranteed if we cut him prior to week 1. So they're probably going to cut him for week 1, but then bring him back for week 2 and the rest of the season after that, just to have him as depth, which is always interesting. They did it with Greg Ward 1,000 times when he was here on the practice squad back in the day too. Howie always knows how to play with money and get it to his advantage. So credit to him for that. I see him there in the chat too. But yeah, yeah, I do think we're gonna keep after the initial roster cuts, of course. I think we're gonna keep 3 tight ends around, and Richard Rodgers is just a nice safety blanket to have. I mean, he knows the scheme. It's very similar to Doug Peterson's too. He can execute a West Coast offense, and he can make a few catches here and there if you need him to. Looks like he's got good rapport with Joe Flacco thus far, and he's a veteran guy. I mean, he's been around for a little bit, so he's a good safety blanket until you have a couple other young guys. Unfortunately, Tyree Jackson got hurt, but until you have a couple other young guys who are ready to come up, whether that be Jack Stoll, Kerry Angeline, maybe at some point this season, one of those guys. But yeah. I mean, do you think – I have a couple questions for you, but first I want to ask you – I mean, a lot of people are asking about Ertz in the chat. Do you think – I think Ertz – personally, I think he's going to start the season, obviously, now because
that's hands down.
It's pretty much given. Do you think he's going to be traded by the deadline, or do you think he's going to play entire season?
From what I've been reading, but I really hope so because, I mean, trust me, I've been doing a lot of reading. I think at best you could probably trade him at the trade deadline, at least get at least some value in return for Zach Ertz because – who knows, man? The dude's got a lot left in the tank. He's still young. I mean, can bring because I saw. I mean, there's one. I mean, the one team that really stuck out to me was the Buffalo Bills because I know they really don't really have a solid. Another one.
Knox is all right.
Yeah, and same with Carolina because they really don't have what. Because I think who was their tight? Greg Olsen retired.
Greg Olsen. Right.
Yeah,
and KQ too.
And that's the thing too. It's like now because I was thinking like the only top 2 teams I can think could be perfect landing spots is Buffalo or Carolina, but I feel like Buffalo's more of a better choice because they're always contending in that division, and the fact you can add someone of Sir Ertz's caliber, I think that's really going to push you even more to really. Well, we got to see what scheme he can fit in. Though that's the thing, some players can fit in certain schemes, like you said. Exactly. Richard Rodgers, like he's fit. He knows how to do a West Coast scheme since. Obviously that was Peterson's thing, but it's just like I just feel like it's just where I think I don't know though. It's tough to say though. It's like it's too early to tell. But like say if he does well, I think that I really hope that really does rise up his trade value. If not, I mean at best trade him at the trade deadline, and not to mention also got like next year we got like 40 to 50 million cap space because of that Carson Wentz's contract. So I think, and Joey, I think Joey or somebody, Joey Chase or somebody brought up a good point. It's like if we're going to have that much in there, I feel like if I'm Howie, I'm attacking free agency and at least get some good replacement pieces to where even in the draft, like say if we get someone like Stingley, at least be a set in stone for the next 5-10 years. So at least try to because that's kind of what the way I want to plan it. If you're having like 40 to 50 million cap space, attack some of the positions like I don't know. See, that's tough though. Like corners. I mean, you still got Zach McPherson. You're probably going to put. I think Zach's probably more of like outside corner, but you really don't. But you're going to need to go after a primary corner.
Right.
Who else is going to be gone? I mean, that's tough though. Like it's like there's so many question marks in different spots. It's like I mean the main spot. If you want to really. Oh god, it's yeah. I mean, it's like it's hard to keep a straight face, but I just feel like the secondary. I mean, I know everything else comes secondary. Oh, no pun intended, but secondary. But I feel like the secondary is probably like should be like our number one priority at this. Later down the line, so to speak.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because
you got Darius Slay. I think he's like 34, 35, and God knows how long he's going to last in this league. Steven Nelson, he's still young. He's entering his prime years, so at least we have him for a year, which, after all of that debacle, the way that you're not, even though, and it brings me back to that idea where Yannick Ngakoue was pulling that shit, pulling that troll. Yeah. Even though he was out of free agents, I was like, what is going on? And at the time, I didn't know what the hell was going on until I saw about Joey Shakes putting. So I was like, there's because he won. What was the last team? Was it Jacksonville? And then where did he end up to? The Baltimore.
I think I'm not mistaken. Yeah, maybe Oakland. Might be in Oakland now.
Yeah, because I forgot where he ended up.
Yeah, he's in Las Vegas now, or not Oakland, Las Vegas. Same thing, honestly.
It's still the Raiders. It's like, for crying out loud.
Yeah, right.
Because what I'm thinking is just like the the Ravens, because that's where because it's like that's where he's more because I've really never watched him play because I really don't know what he brings to the table. I know that other than the most hated player in the NFL is Jalen Ramsey. I know everybody hates him for Eagle Champ 1. He's another. God. Actually, he brought up a good point. Would you ever I don't know if you were paying attention to the Deshaun Watson news. I'm thinking it says got my buddy Bird Gang up in here. What's going on? What's going on? Guy. But yeah, I think Howie did a pretty good. I think as much as people hate Howie, but he knows how to do his due diligence when he looks like potential free agents. As much as I like Deshaun Watson, but all the shit that he's done, whatever's going off field, the fact that but
loving in the chat,
yeah, getting love, but yeah, it shows that I just kind of feel like it's where I saw that Miami's the farmer side. The fact if you're going to trade. And that's I'm thinking too. So if you trade him, worst case scenario, he's going to be on the exempt list. Like there's no reason why. And obviously, as much as I give Howie credit and not giving up a lot because I know Houston's really asking a lot. Was it 3 firsts and 2 seconds? Like there's no way we're not paying that. We are not. I mean, despite with the God, I mean, even though we're in cap hell at the moment, but. Exactly, Howie. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, I mean, it's as much as I see. That's the thing too. It's like at one, even and going back to the draft too. Like when we took Hurts for the second pick, it's like, really? But when I was watching his college, it's like, okay, so there's something there. There's some high potential there. We could probably use him as a bargaining chip because going to in basketball terms, RB, I said this, and a few other content creators said this too. So I want to move on to the Sixers. Is the way that Maxi's been playing the summer league? I feel that he's playing as like a doing that as a bargaining chip to get literal over here to Philly. Do you think that's really the case here?
I think Maxey is just that kid's a grinder. He loves the game of basketball. He has a passion for it. So I think that's just who Maxey is at this point. I mean, I love the kid, love his work ethic and everything.
I mean, they got to thank John Calipari for that.
Yeah, for real, dude.
That's the thing too. And that's the thing too. It's just I'm a huge Villanova guy, but Kentucky's become. I've been starstruck with Kentucky because of the way that they do things over there. Because
yes.
And I made a video about this too when I heard Josh Hart want to change the series, but when he resigned, it's like, God damn it! Yeah. I was like, oh God, can we ever get? Yeah, Josh Hart,
Michael Bridges.
Don't get me started on that.
Michael Bridges, yeah.
Oh, trust me, that
good Lord.
When someone brings up that to Mitch, he just face palms. It's like it feels like it's like PTSD for most Sixers fans.
Yeah,
but I'll say this: but Josh Hart always been a good player. Mikal Bridges was just on a whole nother level with the Phoenix Suns. Another guy I would really hope to at least give him a homecoming reunion. Ryan Arcidiacono. The guy, game-winning assist in that playoff. That March Madness,
baby.
God, and it is the thing too. Like even though we had a Georgetown product, obviously Allen Iverson. I mean, we really had no. It's not that really that much homegrown talent. It's not that I think about it. Because I know we had some Georgetown, which, I mean, obviously that was one of our college rivals at one point in the time. But obviously we had one of the greatest, I mean, I got Patrick Ewing. He was pretty good during this time. Obviously AI, still, in my estimation, one of the greatest basketball players that I've ever watched in the 2000s. But it's just like, I said this, and I mentioned this too, like about this Ben Simmons problem, and I really hate to talk about it because I've already done 2 videos on him, 2. But I mentioned a couple points too. Was like he's like the way that he's going about it. He's like the fact you're cutting off the communication with the organization. It tells you number one, like you're nothing but a toxic cancer in the locker room, and number 2, or actually there's a few points, but if I'm Joel Embiid, like I cannot look at you the same,
right?
And I said, maybe 15, like I would say, Simmons could have thrived, 15, 20 years ago where everything was all defense. You know what I'm saying? 15, 20 years ago was all like all defense. But now in this new age of basketball, everything's, offense, putting up high offensive numbers. Like, defense has kind of been thrown out the window like the last, 2-3 years, if I'm not mistaken, the way this, and that's the thing too. It's just like, and at one point when we drafted, I was like, really? The one person I had the Sixers draft was Brandon Ingram because I was
big on Brandon Ingram that year. I was a
big
dude.
I was love Brandon Ingram, that or Jaylen Brown.
Yeah,
that's another guy that I have. God, that's like and then we get stuck with the guy and that's the thing. I was watching Simmons highlights and it's like fucking dude shooting the ball out at LSU, and then all of a sudden switch turns off. It's like.
And you see him in summer league. You see him back in his first summer league too. That man was just hitting J after J after J.
Yeah, at one point I was not buying any of it.
Yeah,
and I still don't. And I'm with the DJ Eastwood at this point. I was like, at this point, it's like you better like cut your losses because
absolutely.
And as much I don't hate him, but just the way he goes about it, it kind of reminds me when AI his off the court antics, how AI was off the court. Not exactly, but I'm trying to make a comparison the way that he's going about it. Maybe that's tough though. It's tough to, but it's just like he's done. And I call him a toxic cancer. I call him a diva, a spoiled little brat. I mean, the whole name in the book, the whole list goes on. But it's just like the fact you spend almost $20 million on a home in LA with no basketball hoop. It's like, what the hell are you going about it? And that's the fact. And now I'm seeing I mean. The open to Californian teams, but like the only one, see, that's tough though. Like the only team I feel like that makes sense is the Kings. No. Wait a minute. I'm trying to feel like what I'm trying to think. And I love Buddy Hield too. Like I've watched his college tape. It's just like
Buddy Hield's the man.
God, like how the hell did the Sixers miss up on him? That's just like, I mean, don't get me wrong. The Sixers, I know the Sixers, missed out some decent names, but they know how to draft compared to some of these other Philadelphia sports. Obviously, Eagles were not, or like the least of our problems. But I'm just saying, it's just like you got to have players like Brandon Ingram, Jaylen Brown. Who else was that part of that draft class? Oh God, I know
Devin Booker picked like 15th or something like that, or was it?
We're going to have Devin Booker too. That's even worse, man. But don't get me wrong, man. Devin Booker is still the guy, man.
I agree. He had a rough finals, but he's still the man.
Exactly, man. And that's the thing. And Jay Crowder too is another one that I actually enjoyed watching. It's just like those are 3-point machines. It's like, and I criticized a lot of the Lakers too. Like, despite they bringing back Dwight Howard, now they're getting Rajon Rondo. It's like fuck. I was like, there goes our bench at that point. Well, Drummond
I just looked it up, and it was Okafor who we took 3rd overall, and then Booker was 15. The Booker was 13 that year.
Don't get me started on Joel. Do not get me started on Okafor. even though he was okay, but why? Just why?
Yeah, not a fan of that pick.
Nah. Same with Markelle Fultz too. That's another one I did not like.
Yeah,
but and that's the thing too. Now, Jay just. The fact that now, since we kind of mentioned Maxey earlier, the fact that we took him at 21, I'm still shocked that we took him at 21. Because the fact that you see like these Kentucky players are going like in the top 10, but I don't know what the teams are, or I don't know what the teams see in Maxey. The fact that he dropped 21, but I guess I compare what we saw. I guess what the Sixers saw in Maxey, I think really took out. I mean, and that's the thing too. It's just like. Yeah, he may be undersized, but he is quick. Like, people don't understand how quick he grew. Exactly. And not to mention, he knows how to finish through contact. Like, he does, like, the old school bully ball. And what's crazy is me and my grandpa...
quickly at Kentucky, too, with him, who was balling out in New York.
Quigley's been and RG Barrett. I thought he was a solid pick for the Knicks too. And people say he's the bust. Is like I was like, nah. I mean, it was crazy. But even though I don't even like the Knicks, but I feel like some of the players who went there kind of rejuvenated the career. Obviously, Julius Randle is a perfect, an obvious example.
Right.
And I mentioned, and I said, I made a joke about this too. It's like anything with, if you go to the Pistons, your career is going to be dead on arrival instantly. Look what happened to what the fuck's his name? Blake Griffin. Like I still remember the hype he brought because of what he can bring. Obviously dunking abilities, but that's pretty much about it. But ever since he went to Detroit, and just like never saw anything. That's just like, which is ridiculous. And another thing too is just like, I think this year, it's going to be a very tough Eastern Conference, in my honest opinion.
It's going to be tougher than last year for sure. When, I think even going into the playoffs, I think we thought it was weak with the Hawks being the number 4 or number 5 seed. I think
they were the 5 seed,
and the next being, obviously the next being a 4 seed. They definitely weren't ready for it.
Where did the Bucks finish? What was the Bucks seeding?
Bucks were 2, I believe. I want to say 2 because they played. Was it 2 or no? The Nets were 2 because the Nets played.
I have a feeling they were 7 or something, like getting that lower seeding. No, wait a minute.
Bucks were 3 because the Heat were like 6, and
Heat were 6, and I said this too. And this is why I think, but I don't know if you pay attention. Budenholzer deserves that extension, and this is I made this point. But I made this point where the Bucks actually showed, actual grit. Well, no pun intended, but grit and the heart. Say, look, no matter, you cannot kick us when we're down. Like, and obviously now you have Giannis, who at one point, I remember one point people were calling a bust. Since he got drafted, and it's like now seeing what he is now, it's like, man, what a transition!
Crazy. I've never been like, I wouldn't say I've been like a Giannis fan or anything, but seeing him win the finals after just his story, I think, unfolding. Was a really cool just event in sports to see, just the journey he took.
And not to mention, like, obviously, the last title was 1971. 50 years later, and you got to think, so between that time, like, you got to think how mediocre the Bucks were back then, or during that time. But to finish it up, how about I want to talk a little Flyers for a little bit.
Let's go. That's
my see. That's the thing too. It's just like what I'm excited for this season because of the Seattle Kraken. That's about it for the Flyers. It's like because I'm excited to see even though I love the Flyers, but I'm gonna see what the Kraken can bring because obviously, to be honest, I feel like Chuck Fletcher did a pretty good job of really strengthening up what we really needed. Bringing in as much as I hate seeing Ghost go, but I think it was already time for him to go anyways. But I just feel
it was.
And Brian Elliott, as much as I liked his time here, I think it's Carter's, and I thought he was pretty solid for us for was the second stint, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
It's just like people don't realize. It's like some people, like someone like Brian Elliott, even though his second stint, he's still a solid goaltender. Having someone like getting Cam Atkinson too.
I like Cam Atkinson.
That's a solid pickup.
He's a good culture guy too.
I think. I mean, at this point, man, I think Chuck Fletcher. I mean, as much as even though I don't really watch the Flyers that much, but I've been keeping on the eye of the all-season acquisitions. It's like, just wow, like this team's. I know this. Bring up. How about Jaromir? Jaromir Jagr still playing at 39 years old.
Crazy.
What's like wow.
Crazy. It feels like yesterday we were kids just watching him on the Flyers.
God damn, I remember that
when
too.
We acquired him.
Yeah, and I think he's got to be in this like. God, when did that was a long time ago. He had to be like somewhere up there in age a little bit.
Yeah,
but I mean, if he can still produce at 39 years old, ain't good for him.
Right?
I know this is not Flyers way, but man, prayers up to good. What a career for Henry Lundqvist for the Rangers, man. The fact that he had retired for a heart problem. My God, man,
That's sad.
That
Henry
is very
Lundqvist
sad.
Unreal.
Dude,
he was unreal.
He when we played the Rangers, man, he was the one goaltender that gave us problems.
Yeah,
but the only one team I would like to see we squash the crap out of is Pittsburgh. Not gonna lie though,
that's all that matters.
And look, and that's the thing to say, Pittsburgh, I don't give a crap. Flyers, at least give them a stomping of a lifetime. Like other teams. Hey, oh god, that too. But yeah, man, I mean, I think that's about it for tonight. But Hunter, man, we got to start doing this more often, man.
Hey, I appreciate you, Robert, for having me on.
Not a problem, man.
It was a great time just jumping around a lot of different topics and just talking some sports, man. And hey, I appreciate your time.
Oh, no problem. I mean, hello, it's called Sports Talk Podcast for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it doesn't matter what fan. I mean, except for Dallas. That's the only.
Yeah.
But guys, thanks for everyone who's stopped by in the chat. God, 11 fucking likes on the stream already. But thanks thank you for who stopped by.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, check out my merch store, and all that. Also, if you're new to my channel, you'll subscribe here, and also go check out Hunter Doyle and the Philly Side and podcast, man. I mean, they do a lot of good stuff over there. Like, I mean, ever since when I heard about Mitch, it's like that was an automatic subscription to me to the Philly Insider podcast. Mitch, and that's the thing too. It's like, but guys, this is Robert from the Philly Sports Podcast, and Hunter, we are gone.
Peace.